I wish I knew how to quit you.
Then why don't you?
This is Codependent Content, a podcast where my partner and I discuss the TV shows, movies, and video games in which we've formed an unhealthy relationship. My name is Mattias, and my co-host is Shannon Riley. Join us each week as we try to make sense of the media we continually give our hearts against our better judgment, and commiserate with us as we struggle and fail to let go of the characters, stories, and worlds that we are entangled with. Because just when we think we're done with content, it draws us back in. And we did it.
We got here.
It's our last week.
Woo!
For Yellowjackets.
Right.
At least. How do you feel?
You know, kind of sad to see it go, not gonna lie. Especially
really?
especially after this last episode. This last episode got my mind percolating with possibilities and
the possibilities.
Yeesh.
We'll probably get to predictions and stuff later.
Yeesh.
I'm sure. But for now, we are talking about Yellowjackets. Shannon, we had a great week for finales, I'd say. We had last week Yellowjackets and Love and Death finale. Love and Death being only a little limited series. And then yesterday was Barry and Succession.
Yeah.
So 3 of those being series finales, one of them only being a season finale. Which one was your favorite finale? Succession.
Yeah.
The best one ever. Just really good television. What else is there to say?
You literally Barry was very good. I'm not saying it wasn't.
Barry's really good. I didn't realize we were doing a finale. I wish this was more clear. Maybe I wasn't paying attention, but it was episode 8, and I didn't realize we were getting into finale territory already, you know? So I was like, oh, there's more to come. And the finale gave me, no spoilers unless you've seen this movie, maybe, if you get an idea. It gave me Place Beyond the Pines vibes. And that, I think, has actually become one of my favorite movies when I think about it. Because I feel like I reference it a lot, like in my head for stories and stuff, because I just love the way they do the storytelling. And I won't spoil why. If you've seen the movie, you know kind of what happens. It's like a narrative device that happens.
Okay.
And the reason I don't want to spoil it is because like the finale, it's like it's just a very specific. This the way they decide to tell the story, and I don't want to say where that goes.
Sure.
You know.
What's the movie called?
The Place Beyond the Pines.
Place Beyond the Pines.
By Derek Prince. Anyway, never mind. I'm gonna forget. So yeah, I suggest anyone go watch that movie. Just put it on your list if you haven't seen it. And then also go watch Barry if you haven't caught it, because I think that the finale, probably that one was my favorite. I did like Succession. Love and Death is a limited series. It's just something to mention. I think Elizabeth Olsen did great, but in terms of like finales, Barry, you know, really was impactful through its entire run. And I think I loved what Bill did with that. Whatever he was trying to do with season 4, I kind of love where he took it and how unsurprising it was and things like that. Succession, really good finale. And delivers exactly kind of like what you expect. So I guess in that sense, like I didn't really, nothing really unexpected really kind of happened. Because at the end of the day, it's like, it is surprising, but not like, you know,
out of their own possibility. I agree 100%. And I feel like for me, that's why Succession just nailed the landing for me. I think Barry did such a great job at telling the story in a unique way. There were moments where I was like, of course this makes perfect sense, but you're almost caught off guard by how you get there.
Yeah.
So just like creatively, it's so engaging, but that's what I think part of the pull for Succession is that it's so like sadly predictable. It's like, of course Logan finds himself in this position and Shiv finds herself in her position. I don't want to spoil anything if y'all aren't watching it, but again, it's just like, it's a sad reality of like, yep, these are just horrible people. And this is the horrible consequences of all their horrible actions.
Yeah.
And,
So those are the finales of the other shows. But today we are talking about the season finale, season 2 finale of Yellowjackets. This is spoiler filled. We don't want to spoil the other shows that we're talking about right now, but we are going to spoil Yellowjackets. Everything that happened in season 2, especially everything that happened in this finale from the get-go. So if you haven't seen the episode, sorry, I guess go watch it, come back. But you've had 4 days now, I guess. So really, that's on you.
This one's on you guys.
A little bit of housekeeping. Dog, can you not lay on the cables? Anyway, a little bit of housekeeping. We are going to record next Monday, I believe. We decided is going to be Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it's Into the Wow, I don't actually know the name because it's the first one was Into the Spider-Verse, right?
Is this one Across the Spider-Verse?
Across the Spider-Verse.
I really don't know.
That's what it is.
Okay.
I knew there was something different.
Okay,
so we're gonna watch Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales, Electric Boogaloo, Across the Spider-Verse. And that we're going to watch it on Sunday, and then we'll probably talk about it. That might be audio only or video, just unedited, because there's really no reason to put any clips in, because then I'd have to illegally download the movie, and I'm not going to do that, guys. Why would I?
Shan't be.
Don't steal. You wouldn't steal a car. Are you too young for that reference? You wouldn't steal a car, then you wouldn't steal a movie reference. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
There was a little advertisement that came on all the DVDs, and it starts off with this like crazy rock, and it's like police sirens over like black background, and it like the words come up on the screen, and they're like, "You wouldn't steal a car, you wouldn't steal a whatever." So don't steal movies. It was don't pirate movies, guys. I described that exactly how it is. Please, chat. Tell her that is exactly what it was. That was the most perfect description you've ever heard. I don't care what y'all say. Background music was pirated. No way.
Shut the fuck up. Oh my God.
It might be fake trivia, but I will believe it. That the fact that the music was pirated to make that ad.
That's funny as hell.
That's a great urban legend. That's one of those things that like just becomes true because everyone said it was.
Right.
Point is, I don't know how I'm gonna edit that, or if I'm just gonna put it out. But we're gonna talk about. There. We're gonna talk. And we're gonna talk about Spider-Man. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And we'll put that out. We'll do it live, and we'll release it. So you're gonna. If you're interested in, go watch the movie over that weekend because it comes out this weekend. Is that what it is? Yeah. And so if you're interested in hearing us talk about that, we love the first Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Shannon couldn't stop talking about when we first met. That was her favorite movie of all time, apparently.
After How the Grinch Stole Christmas, but the Jim Carrey version.
Sure. Yeah. She didn't know it was animated. No, I'm just kidding.
I thought it was real. Fuck off.
And then we are going to be watching Star Trek: Strange New Worlds.
Star Trek
Season 2, which, again, we're going to put this out there. Remember when we did this with Yellowjackets?
Yes.
And we said it was going to be coming out on Sundays, which is what they told us. So it's what the internet told us. And then it ended up being on basically Thursday at Eastern midnight time, whatever.
Right.
So Star Trek is supposedly coming out on Thursdays, June 15th. And so we will record then and switch our recording schedule on Fridays. Maybe Friday during the day. Actually, are we thinking of, we might even be doing, if it comes out on Wednesday night.
Do it on Thursday.
We will try and let you guys know. We won't know. We'll do an event.
On
the Discord if you're interested in listening to us talk about that. No clue. But that's the plan right now.
And if you haven't seen any Star Trek, or you've always thought, why do people talk about Star Trek? I don't think I like Star Trek that much. This is a great gateway drug into the Star Trek universe. And I would encourage you, if you like to hang out on the Discord and chitty chat, you should hop in because I will have plenty of chitty chat things to share. And Mattias is like a first time Trekkie too. He's never really seen.
This is my first Trek show. Besides which I love, the reboot. I'm sorry to any Trek
no, they're good.
heads out there that maybe don't like them, but I do love the reboot. In fact, I think the 2009 Star Trek from J.J. Abrams is one of the better action adventure films, if not like sci-fi, you know?
Yeah.
I know it doesn't feel as Star Trek-y as the shows. This feels different. Strange New Worlds does feel different. And I get now the fandom of Star Trek because I haven't been a part of that my whole life. I'm like, why is this? I don't know. And it feels good. It's great. So I can't wait to see it. I've watched one trailer. You've watched a new trailer.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's coming. So you're going to have to explain everything to me.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned like, oh, we're going to get Klingons.
Yeah.
I know that Klingons are a thing. I know I've seen Klingons before, probably.
Oh, baby,
but I have no
in.
idea what this means in anything. So
also, we usually do this earlier. I missed my slot, but I wanted to tell everyone that I finally kind of convinced you to watch Lost with me by just putting it on and hoping for the best. And it worked. We are about halfway through season 1 so far, and I'm remembering all the like weird hypothesizing I was doing for the first time and like falling in love with these characters all over again.
Right. I will say that I've seen the first season or most of the first season. So I am also retreading some ground that I forgot about. And I will say, I am probably hate watching it, I am enjoying it more. It is the first of this show to do it. It did change the media landscape. And so for being like a groundbreaking thing, I'm seeing why it's easy to love and stuff. And it still has some elements that there's some problems. Still has some elements that are easy to like get, like it makes sense. But because it is kind of almost formulaic now in the way that the mystery box show is done and in the way these type of shows is done. And then at the time, like network television, the way that was done, like we kind of get the gist of it now. And we've had so many shows like this because it started it. It's easy to kind of like, I see where this is going.
Right.
Right. I mean, there's the classic tropes like the love triangle, which is just in network television at all. Right. And then there's like the mystery box stuff where you're like, oh, I can predict what's happening just because we don't have surprises anymore, which is interesting. But this show does better at least getting you into the characters, which is to say at the end of all this, I probably am enjoying Lost a lot more than I enjoyed this finale of Yellowjackets.
And there's the segue.
Listen, here's what it is. I'm going to embrace my villain era for this podcast and just do what I can to maintain my just dislike with what season 2 has done with this show. Because unfortunately, I think season 1 was great. And season maybe 1.5 was a decent buildup. I still maintain what we were talking about, maybe episode 3. Episode 3 was like a favorite of mine, like earlier on. And I was like, I still think that some of those early ones were decent. But what it led up to and the slow pace in which it did lead up to it feels at times unearned, at times confounding, and then at other times just like floundering and trying to figure out what the writing is, you know?
Right.
So as much as I still adore some of the characters, the story's just not landing for me. And the mystery boxness of it is even more frustrating. So
what if there's no present day timeline? What if it's all 96 timeline? Does that change your opinion of?
I mean, yeah, we would have hopefully a lot more story to tell because then that we would have like half a season. But yeah, the 96 timeline is infinitely more interesting. And then in that sense, the scenes that we know got cut last week, if we talk a little bit about that, we weren't the only ones that were frustrated with not getting to the decision, you know what I'm saying, for seeing them talk about before they did the ceremony.
Yeah.
we got a lot of comments on YouTube, a lot of comments in chat, and in emails to say that we're kind of frustrated. Like, why didn't we see this? And we know it was shot.
Right.
You mentioned that, or we heard about it. That it was shot. I can't remember.
I think I read it in an article, but fans have been telling us the same thing, coming back and letting us know, like, hey, you missed this and this is why. But yeah, to know that everyone is kind of feeling like a little bit of that disconnect, I think speaks to the fact that, like you were saying, it's not quite landing.
Yeah.
And in regards to, I'm just going to get all this out now. So when we talk about the episode, I won't keep bringing it up. But the present day timeline is kind of held in shackles by what's already been or has not been revealed to us in the 96 timeline. And I think that holds back a lot of maybe avenues for exploration too, because all the present day timeline can tell me is like, we're all fucked up. We all did bad things. Like, we did this to Lottie. You can't be any less vague than that, because otherwise you're giving away the 96 reveal. So essentially 96 timeline always does it for me. I had a lot of fun in the present day timeline in this episode though, because it's just a little...
Well, Walter came back. Yeah. I will point that out.
Yeah.
If the best thing is Elijah Wood and whatever the fuck he's doing.
Whatever the fuck he's
what does
up to.
that say about the rest of the cast stuff, you know?
Right.
So I think it would be interesting depending on the context. I feel like maybe it's just like a lot of things that were set up where I'm like, this is inherently kind of interesting, but I don't know how we got here to them doing the ceremony again in present day. I'm like, I don't like just the connecting those dots, you know, in terms of like where we started this season. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's just personal preference at that point.
Yeah.
Let's say, let's talk about in general things that maybe did or did not happen that we knew or theorized or that we heard about theories on the internet. What do we know and what's kind of like been confirmed or denied in this episode? Do you have anything that
kick us off?
I don't.
No, well, I can't think of anything.
We still don't know who's alive, I guess. Like, I kind of was hoping that my prediction from last week was that we would know if Mari or someone else is alive. We would reveal another person. So that didn't happen. And all our theories about or talks about who's going to be the Antler Queen. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a few people that may have guessed it, but Natalie was definitely not front runner, in any of our lists, any of our polls. And so we do have, I guess, soft confirmation that Natalie is the Antler Queen, or the queen that was chosen at this time. We don't know if, like, no one's ever said it. We haven't seen her wear the thing, so we're not going to assume she is the Antler Queen.
But I will say, from reading reviews, she refers to herself as the Antler Queen, so I think we're safe to...
Oh, the actress.
The actress, yeah.
Okay.
So she's like official.
There's a confirmation.
Yeah.
She's been forms.
Coronated.
Yeah, great.
That's crazy.
And then... did you have any? I'm trying to think of anything else.
I guess I was half hoping that we would get to play some more.
Well, we thought they were going to eat Ben. Ben
with,
still.
Like the others.
Well, there's no others.
No, but there's going to.
You're assuming that this is exactly like Lost, that we haven't confirmed that there's others out there. So of course you can't. So we stir out on whether or not this is supernatural or realistic is basically what you're,
Yeah.
Which even at the end, Shauna, I'm almost positive that that's almost soft confirmation at the end of this episode when Shauna says there was no it. Mm-hmm. I know, again, jumping ahead a little bit, but if she's going to say there was no it, then again, that tells me they never confirm anything in the 96 timeline. They never will. Anytime we flash back to what they're doing in the wilderness, we're never going to see them. Like, actually, it's just going to be Mystery Box City because we're never going to know, was it them or was it actually something? That reveal has to come in the present day timeline because they still don't know themselves.
Right.
Which is frustrating to me, you know? But I think it's also a confirmation that maybe there isn't anything, you know?
Yeah.
So and I'm sorry if you think there are others, I feel like that would be something that they would talk about.
You're probably not wrong. And honestly, now that I'm rewatching Lost, I was able to watch Yellowjackets not as much through the lens of Lost, which is kind of enjoyable.
Right.
But
yeah, so we'll just leave it at that in terms of theories. I'm sure we'll get to more other stuff. I mean, we really didn't do too much theorizing. I mean, they have not denied yet that this is all a fake future vision that they're all currently having. I mean, this is all just Jumanji over again. Is still the best theory out there, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you want to start, Shannon?
Let's start with the present day timeline.
Okay.
And we can either, depending upon how we're feeling while we're flowing, we can either go all the way through the present day timeline, or we can cut as things become relevant.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Sure.
All right, cool.
You have all the notes.
I do have all the notes. I always have all the notes. This episode is called Storytelling. And that did not click for me until halfway through this episode. And then some cool things happened for me that connected the title of the thing. So we begin for me with Lottie when she says, "It won't stop until we give it what it wants." And then she takes a cup to drink.
Yeah.
Immediately. And she knows which cup is poisoned. So do you think she was trying to kill herself? Yes or no?
I don't know that she knows which cup is I'm not confident that she knows.
Even though in the last episode they said, "But you know which one has the poison in it." And she said, "Fine, I'll choose last."
Yeah, and like shuffle them or whatever. Like there's a possibility that, we didn't see her. Really, we don't know. She could have done it as randomly to herself to keep herself from knowing that was going to be a possibility anyway. So I'm, if I was doing it and why would you think she would do that though? Because we don't get that similar vibe later.
Well, I was just going to say, this connects for a point for me at the very end of the episode where they're all drawing for the queen.
Yeah.
And she looks like disappointed that she didn't draw the queen, in my opinion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering if there's any connection there, or if I was looking for it because I knew my theory at the beginning.
I think it's valid. There's definitely an idea that she just wants kind of this to be over. She's having the visions, doing whatever. And if she does, quote unquote, belong into a mental institution, she is acting stranger in my view as well. She feels more... From the last episode to this episode, there was a transition, I think, in her demeanor where she's like super, I guess, into this, wanting to go back. This is exactly kind of what she wanted the whole time.
Right.
But last episode, she was like, "What is going on with me? This is not what I like. What is?" It feels like a weird jump in emotion. So I guess maybe she is kind of embracing it and could potentially be suicidal at the same time. Like I could see that being the case. I mean, the fact that there's no real talk of it or real any action that we can like really latch on to besides that one tiny thing, which could be it could be like a writing, like she goes so that they can tell her no just for, right. It could be a whole lot of things, which is, it's hard to say that is the thing, even though that would be a super interesting idea that I could imagine someone that this is basically controlling their lives to like want it to be over.
Just want it over.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I read a short article, I think in Vanity Fair, where the costumer talks about watching Lottie's steadily declining mental health through her like little things that she wears. And when we start the season, she's in a lot like more vibrant colors. And then by the end, the costumer was saying that they picked this like beautiful, deep yellow velvet to really show like the texture of her sanity. And when we spend that whole moment just wrapping around that actress while she's wearing that, I was like, oh, cool. I'm glad I read that article before I watch this again. But we also have the shorthand storytelling, which is the crazier a woman's eyeliner and mascara run down her face, the less stable she is. And through the whole episode, her eyeliner just gets like crazier and crazier and crazier.
I'm thinking of Shauna right now. When the last time I noticed eyeliner, but that's a different character.
For Lottie.
I wasn't paying attention. It was such dark scenes to really kind
They
of
were pretty
tell.
dark scenes.
So, okay.
But yeah, that eyeliner
but
just
you
gets
do mention
crazier
that.
and
I'm
crazier.
curious like how that ties into the other characters as well, because I do remember Shauna later on has a similar like stuff, like at least dirt from tears, you know. It might not even be makeup because they wouldn't be wearing makeup out in the wilderness. But the young Shauna has like, it clearly hasn't just been able to bathe in a while. There's dirt and tears. So I don't know if that is similar. So
might be. All right.
Just interesting. So she's definitely losing her mind in a way that convinces us like what the other characters are going through in terms of like we need to like get her into a mental place. It doesn't feel as much like Lottie. So it's definitely see that deterioration.
And we do confirm that her therapist is real. Dr. Brandt is like a real person.
No. She always had another therapist. Like her first meeting with this therapist, the woman, was the fake one, but like the other one was supposedly on vacation or something. That's what like her mind told her.
She was on sabbatical.
Yeah.
But then does that mean that she hasn't been seeing her therapist? Because if she has a real therapist that we have never met.
For sure. She's definitely not been seeing her. There's no sabbatical, but I do believe that the therapist was real, the original therapist. That never crossed my mind that there was never a therapist.
No, right. Well, what I'm saying is, I guess you're right. I was like, maybe there was never a therapist, but now that we know that she gets medication from this therapist, it's like, well, you haven't been seeing that therapist, at least for the past 2 times.
And we haven't seen her take any meds either. So she's not on her meds, which would lead to deterioration. So again, is this actually the wilderness or the darkness, which they seem to cling on to, or is this her like just not being on her meds? Lottie really is kind of making it up in her head.
Yeah. Did you notice Van being just weird as shit?
Yeah. I think there's a part of Van that every time either young, and I think our friend Block A mentioned it last week as well. Friend in the chat, friend in the
okay, come back.
Has mentioned that Van had a look on her when the ceremony was starting, and you could tell that like it's almost feral. She's the first one that grabs a weapon, and she's kind of like leads the charge in like a lot of the way. And she embraces this thing more, and as it comes up in the present day, I think she's the one that says like, no, we don't need to. She's saying it because she doesn't think Lottie needs to be in a mental institution. We all dealt with the same stuff. She says, we know what's wrong with her, right?
It's like what's wrong with all
we're
of us.
Kind of responsible for it in a way. She's saying that, but also is she embracing the ceremony and the thing because she has nothing else, right? Like now she has cancer and it's meaningless or whatever, and to her, like she's the one that calls it off, bring the hospital there. And so I think she's kind of wanting this to happen. Yeah. It's like, why not?
Why do you think so you just reminded me that it's clearly Van's idea to stop the hospital from coming to scoop Lottie, but why doesn't she just call? Why does she get Ty to call? Is it because I was like, maybe Ty would have more of an influence because she's like a public figure or something?
No, I think it's just she had to convince Ty because they're together, and Ty was the one that made the call. I don't know if she made Ty make the call. Yeah. I think that.
Or maybe how she talked Ty into making the call.
She had to have Ty agree.
Yeah.
She wasn't going to do it on her own.
Sure.
She needed, I think she just needed Ty to be there. Whoever made the call it doesn't matter. Though the fact that Missy apparently made the call initially, like how do they have the contact to be able to even do that?
Right.
Is interesting. I don't know, but those might be plot holes and not really a mystery.
Okay.
So I don't really know. You're jumping around, it threw me off a little bit, so I don't know where you want to go.
I'll just circle right back. the same thing that's kind of happening while they're preparing the masks and Shauna's dulling the knives for the hunt is that the Sadekis show up and pull right up to the little gate and say, oh, I guess we're not going to get in this way. And then Jeff backs mere inches into the cop's car and just drives away and doesn't notice. And it makes me mad.
It's raining, windows
it's not.
glare. Like, you can't see anything in a rearview mirror. I don't. I'm not convinced. I actually drive, Shannon, and I don't know. You make it seem like that she should have noticed. They should have noticed them.
Like a casual resort. It's not like there's a lot of traffic coming up and down this road. You're not telling me if you drove on this lonely road for hours and then you just happen to like back into a car, you wouldn't be like, oh, there's another car here too. That's kind of weird.
The plot needed it to happen, Shannon. I don't know what you're looking for here.
Say that to me.
This is what the writers wanted in this scene. What's the mystery? What would it mean for you for them to have not noticed?
To just ground me in reality a little bit. Throw a bitch a bone. Come on. No, it's okay. So let's continue shitting on how stupid the cops are.
If we're gonna talk about continuity or plot errors or whatever, I'm like, we start off with Misty in the morning going through they had their night of drunkenness. They're all very sober, by the way, I should mention, after like realizing they were going to do a joint suicide or whatever it is. And they've been in the sharing shack most of the night, right? And then by the time we catch up with Misty, like going into the office and stuff, it's, I guess, morning because it's daytime.
Sure.
And then the next scenes we see are this, Callie and Jeff arriving.
Yeah.
And it's still, I guess, maybe morning, when that all happens, the next time we see any of them, it's nighttime.
Yeah.
So it took them all day to find a new
masks.
place. And it also took the cops all day because they were there in the morning. Are we supposed to assume this in the afternoon? What were the cops doing the entire day?
Maybe it's the afternoon. Let's give it, you know what? It's the afternoon.
See, this is what happens. You just got on to me for giving you
No, this is great. So what happens is they all got super drunk. They all slept really late because they were all fucked the night before. So they had to like really sleep in and get hydrated. And so now it's the afternoon when everybody's up doing arts and crafts.
They couldn't find them at all in making the crafts,
hunting
sharpening
through the woods.
The knives.
Yeah.
The cops have been there all day.
The cops have a lot of people to interview, Mattias. I mean,
Doesn't seem like they did any work, these two.
Well, let's also talk about the fact that this like seasoned professional walks into a strange wellness compound and immediately accepts a drink from a stranger.
Yeah, no, some different. Yeah. I mean, he seemed really nice, Shannon.
Beckett would never.
He was being helpful with his information. Elijah Wood is just a great, charismatic. Why wouldn't you take tea from him?
I would absolutely take
if
a
Hobbit asked you if you wanted some tea, what would you do?
I would drink the shit out of it.
Yeah, there you go. You would be dead, Shannon.
Yeah, oh yeah. We would be dead for sure.
Mistake number 1.
So let's talk about how wonderfully adorable Jeff Sadecki is. That man is a ride or die. When he finds out that the cops are there, like he and Callie clock the cops and he's like, I'm going to handle this. You go hang out in the woods or something. I don't know what she does. But he comes in and he has this like false confession ready. And I love that Jeff really has been a ride or die for Shauna this entire time, where this man was driving up to this wellness camp with his daughter, explaining that if we were to leave the country, we would need a lot of fake passports and we could never eat at our favorite restaurants again. It would be a lot of work. Like he's had so much time to think about what would happen. And now the cops are here and he's like, I confess it was me. And then Kevin dies in front of Jeff. And I just feel like poor Jeff Sadecki is just constantly thrown in the middle of such random shit.
Mm-hmm.
Poor guy.
No, yeah. Jeff, protect him at all costs. Sadecki, I love everything that's going on here. I love this.
A gift.
The weird. I don't know if it's just Elijah Wood and his character, but I thought the team up with Walter and Misty was great. But the team up of now I want to see like an episode of just Jeff and Walter
getting into bro shenanigans. Our chat is lit up. Everybody loves Jeff. Guys, Jeff, we're going to make merch.
I think if we don't have next season, I will tune in if there's an entire episode of just Jeff and Walter. One of them just getting away with murder and the other one just not sure what's going on. This is comedy gold. Yeah. I tell you what. That's the best. Great job, Jeff. I mean, who wouldn't want to have a spouse that would just turn themselves in for your murder? And
he's just so roll with the punches too. It's like,
what do you think? Why though? I mean, he was trying to blackmail her. What is Jeff's kind of deal? Is it just the way that they wrote him? Is there something else? Is it just this? What is his loyalty there? Is it just because he made a vow, or what do you think it is? You know, why would he put so much on the line for this person he barely knows? Like he's having nightmares about her eating and killing him or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And he's learning more and more about her. And is it that empathy or that sympathy for her that really is because he wasn't there? And also, again, the connection with Jackie, that kind of stuff. Is it all just tied back to that? I'm sure we're going to learn more about why. But.
I really do hope it is sincere. And it just comes from the depth of like empathy you can have when you know a person, when you have like 25 years of life together and being together and navigating together. I really think that is, and Jeff seems like very family driven. You can see he cares deeply for Callie and for Shauna. And yeah, the fact that he would sacrifice himself basically, hopefully to protect his family from any more discomfort. I hope that comes just from the depth of his emotional capacity and not because he's, I don't know, doing some weird, look how cute Ariel looks.
No.
So
we're recording
cute.
a podcast.
I know.
I see her every day.
And she gets cuter every day. But yeah, Jeff Sadecki needs to be held forever and ever. And Callie really made it to the top of my list too of people that can stay. That little shot near the end of her and Shauna like sitting the same way, looking at the same time in the same way. I was like, ooh, what is it? The psychopath apple doesn't fall far from the man-eating tree.
Wow, the real judgmental there, Shannon. Just real, just way to, judge a book by its cover, huh?
No, I think it's great. Oh yeah, the fact that Walter pops in after Jeff does his confession, he's like, hiya. Great false confession. I can tell it really comes from a place of love. I'm like, you're right. And he can read everyone's characters. I believe it. Jeff Sadecki for president.
To be fair, if again, this is the best team up because here are two people that are putting it all on the line for the significant other in different ways. We can call Misty a significant other, right?
Yes.
She did outright say it was her boyfriend.
She said boyfriend.
So I mean, they're in their minds. They're there.
They're together.
And very different ways of doing that. I think Jeff is he's still kind of goody two shoes, honest, whatever, and Walter is just, I guess, willing to kill and frame and do whatever it takes for a person that he loves. For whatever reason, I don't know. I guess we're willing to accept Walters for absolutely no reason. It's just exciting for him, I guess. This is exactly what he wants.
He just loves it
in life.
Here for the drama.
I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about that, but it's because it's Elijah Wood. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. I'm on board 120,000%.
I don't know what that says about this show, though, because I don't think I should love it.
No, the show is teaching us creative empathy, even when you get to know the darkest, deepest parts of another person. We're just accepting the dark, deep parts, Mattias.
Well, here's the thing: is I do not. I'm disturbed and disappointed, and also frustrated with the death of Kevin.
Oh,
just
sure.
happening
Tell me more.
The way that it happens, Didn't see it coming. Kind of feels useless, superfluous. Like why does it need to happen? Again, while the Sadeki stuff has been strong, it's been fun, the actual like murder of Adam Martin and trying to cover it up and the lead, like getting the cops involved has felt kind of weak most of the show. And so it almost feels like, okay, great, we're going to stop doing that now because we like wrap it all up. And again, they wrote this before and they shot this before everyone had the reactions to it. So it's not in reaction to critiques or our podcast. So it'd be great if they were listening. But in a sense, it does feel like, well, then why were we doing all this? You know, so season 2 ends up being like this bottle episode of this little cop storyline. And now we realize we're no longer interested in the Adam Martin stuff. We had to wrap it up. And then we had to kill him almost senselessly. I don't see the sense. Do you feel that there was a reason?
I'm picking up what you're putting down in the sense of the characters are interesting, but the storylines we push in to like drive them to where we want them to be has been less interesting to me. And I agree with you with the cops specifically. It's like the cops are like a plot development tool so we can get Callie more connected to her mother and Shauna to the wellness clinic.
Right. Well, and Kevin specifically, he played a part in season 1 with Natalie's storyline, you know, and because they were best friends before she got lost to the wilderness and, you know, reconnected. And it's just, I feel like, man, killing Natalie and Kevin feels weird to me because now you're cutting off anything regarding that storyline or that character, you know, any connection that kind of could have been there, like, is really interesting because, like, I could see where if Kevin had found out that Natalie died in the midst of all that and then maybe not wanting to pursue things, and again, showing how these people that are closest to our girls, the soccer team, you know, we got Walter with Misty and Jeff with Shauna. How would Kevin have reacted and done, you know, would he still be on his like path to justice, you know, for this person? There's things I feel like could have been played out had it not been so weak, and then just to kind of throw it away. And like, why to me, you know, like what was the point then of the whole cop storyline? You know, what was the point then of having him connected and involved? Because it doesn't really seem like his thing even played out. And then to do it in that such a kind of a cold-hearted way, like Walter delivers him some tea with some poison in it, you would never think, and then suddenly you're just gone. That feels that kind of stuff scares me. That lack of like even knowing. It's not the lack of control. It's like you don't even know. Well, I again think that was just another plot device. Like Kevin was a plot device even in death, because that's the way we know that the phenobarbital is fast acting and will kill someone almost instantly. I don't know
just
why
like
him,
right
though.
at the end.
Yeah.
Well, you know, because the writer said so, like you always say.
That's a difference.
That's what this. No, that's what it felt like. The writers were like, yeah, that works. Agree to disagree.
You're using that in a different way than I use it. I'm
using it in a funny and correct way.
No, it's scary on its surface when you think about it, and it doesn't feel surprising in like the way that Game of Thrones does it too. You know, I feel like Game of Thrones started this thing where like anyone could die at any point, you know, and this didn't feel like that. This felt like it felt weird and abrupt and maybe not very connected. Because
they weren't humans, part of a storyline. They were just plot devices dressed up like humans. And I would argue even, and I really like, not Natalie. What's the girl's name? Lisa. Plot device.
Right. And
she's not even being a full person.
Again, another theory we were talking about, like nothing comes, like we thought she was important and they were, you know, emphasizing her character for a reason. It ended up being just that connection with Natalie and then nothing else really from that. And
like true connection obviously is worth so much time to explore over the course of episodes, but this was not. She was created to give present day Natalie an arc, and then now we miss her now that she's gone. Although I will say, weren't we theorizing that maybe she was Nat's daughter? Or
Yeah.
And while I do then like that Callie comes in to protect her mom and then Lisa's in there next. It's if they were both daughters, I'd be like, they're the daughters.
We don't know though. And clearly Lottie is not up to something, which was part of that theory, I think, for me. There was an idea that Lottie had started this whole camp and was kind of trying to do this thing with the wilderness, so to speak.
That's right.
And it doesn't seem like that was ever the case. It just was an actual wellness camp, and it was to help people in her own way. We don't even know if like the ceremony that she was doing of burying someone alive was even really part of because it doesn't seem like that happens in the wilderness. We don't know, so we don't know that it comes from there, and it might seem like just a therapeutic thing. Maybe they just bury him up to the neck or something. It's just get him in, get him out. It's a ceremony. It's the metaphor of it,
symbolic, Yeah.
So again, maybe she was helping people that wasn't nefarious. And so therefore she wouldn't have gone and sought out a quote unquote fictional daughter that maybe Natalie and Travis had that we never knew about, which was all part of the theory whenever that girl was introduced. And like, well, why would she do that? Because she doesn't even seem to know that this is all new. The wilderness is new. This actually happened to be a retreat. And so Lisa is just Lisa.
Lisa's just Lisa, guys.
So yeah, there's another thing that just, again, why did we even bother speculating? Because it ended up being, like you said, just a side character to help with someone else, just but plot. Like never really, yeah. Do you? Well, now that Kevin's gone, and that whole storyline's wrapped up. I mean, how do you feel about losing Matt, Officer Siracusa?
I am bummed because if you could
the person who hates Matt,
this is not going where you think it's going,
is bummed.
I'm bummed because Siracusa is the one they kept alive, because technically the way that Walter got him was through blackmail, but if they pin all that blackmail on Kevin, then there would be nothing to blackmail Siracusa with further, so there's nothing deterring him from trying to pick up a case again. Which means I'm going to have to maybe deal with Officer Siracusa more than fucking Kevin, and at least Kevin wasn't an annoying little shit.
That's the thing, is I do not think we've seen the last of Officer Siracusa, because he is the... what was that noise? Well, he's the person that has been pushing this. He wants to... Like, yeah, he solves a really good case, and if maybe he'll get promotion or something. I guess he solves this murder according to Walter, who is the best hacker in the fucking world. Yeah, apparently
he can do 2 puzzles at once. Okay, he can hack into anything.
We'll suspend our disbelief for this.
Believe all men.
Okay, and yeah, I don't think he's going to give up on this. Do you? Or do you think it might be the last time they may just want to get rid of it?
I don't. Well, again, that would have been a way to keep Kevin, someone we've already been through a season with, around to further his plot line. But yeah, I think because it's Siracusa, I think we're going to see him again.
Chat seems to agree with us is all I'm going to say. So we're kind of all on the same page so far.
But the fact that he finds Callie in the woods in the dark with a gun, and he takes a phone call, turns away from her, and just leaves her with the gun. A child, literal, not 18-year-old yet child.
He never confirmed there was an actual gun there, but he knows in his head.
Knows.
But I just don't know what. Yeah, was that supposed to tie up their whole thing? Like, why do they keep stringing that along? Why does Callie keep talking to him? And I know they ran into each other, but. First the bedroom and now this is like, now that we've gotten over, like, they're not dating,
right?
He's no longer undercover. She knows who he is now. I don't know why we keep revisiting that period.
Their little dynamic.
Yeah. Like, what is that? Are we eventually, like, can it get to a point where that comes to a head? And is that supposed to, do they want to do more with Callie? And that's why I think that maybe we haven't seen the last of him. So it's quite possible that that's why it's there, is to keep that dynamic going. I just hate it because I don't know, maybe mental battles and wits and strategies against a teenager and a grown adult don't fascinate me at all. Do you? Are you saying
I don't
you
like
disagree?
him. I
Okay,
just don't
great.
like him.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the worst. I said don't move, literally turns away from a youth with a gun, is what I... And then I wrote dumbass. That's my notes, guys. That's how I take notes.
He's a terrible cop for being kind of good at his job.
Yeah, we thought he was good at his job. He can detect fucking strawberry jizz, but I'm sorry.
What are you talking about?
When he's like, that's not real semen.
Yeah, no, Shannon. Okay.
You know what I'm talking
Syracuse. Well, Syracuse eventually he finds the trunk of the car. Jeff is in a tree.
Yeah, Jeff sees it. I like that Jeff clocks that
He's
Elijah
in a tree,
Wood
right? It was
there.
dark. Was he actually, did he climb a tree for
No, I
this?
think
Or was
he
he
was in
behind a tree?
between.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I couldn't tell. It looked like he climbed a tree for this.
That would be really funny. But yeah, the fact that he clocks Walter doing this is just, I think, another interesting thing that's going to circle back.
Yeah, if you're talking about like weird things that happen and like why, like the little plot holes or whatever you want to talk about, the inconsistencies in belief, you know?
Yeah.
He finds his partner in the trunk of a car. As soon as he sees the body, he goes to pull something out of his pocket. It ends up being his gun because lo and behold, in walks Walter, grabs that gun and then uses it to shoot the body. So that again, he needs Matt's gun to shoot the body so that he can claim that Matt was the one that shot, right? I'm sorry, Officer Syracuse. They never say Matt. So
I was like, is that his name? I thought it was Jay.
But
Jay was his fake name that he used with Callie, huh?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Matthew Syracuse.
Oh, you're probably right.
If I remember correctly.
I believe you.
The point is, Officer Syracuse, he comes and takes the gun. My thing is like, why was he going for the gun in the first place when he saw the body? You know, that for Walter to even grab it, and steal it from him felt really weird, unless I misread that whole situation. Maybe he pulled it from his holster. I don't know why we weren't looking. Really weird. The scene that happens after is great. And again, it's just because Elijah Wood is fucking awesome of doing like, it's a narrative.
Right.
Just yes and with me,
Yeah.
Like I love that so much. And, it basically just ties everything, in a nice little bow and like hands it. And I'm just, I don't know that Officer Syracuse, again, I guess we don't really understand his motivations or like really like why, besides he just wants to do a good job, and maybe this was it. Maybe his whole thing was just to get promoted in the ranks. And so he's kind of good cop and bad cop in it along the way, so this is enticing to him to just solve the murder and be done with it. But I also don't think that he would be that kind of cop to just be like, you just shot my part. Like, what is it like to just be as calm as he is, So it feels weird, but also I guess I can see it, and I guess it's again, part of just the way that they wanted to do it. It's great because it's a fun scene.
Right.
And again, still wants me to have more of like this Jeff reacting to Walter doing what he's fucking doing. Still need that.
Jeff is such a winner, honestly.
But only ends up being just, hey, this is done.
Right.
Unless you have any other thoughts that you wanted to add to that, or
I don't want to have to think about Officer Syracuse again for like 2 years. It was so annoying. I'm so sick of writing down how annoying he is.
Which is probably how long we're going to have to wait for season 3.
Yeah, probably with the writer's strike, and then by the time they film it.
Maybe an Actors Guild strike. Who knows? Yeah, still on hold, so we'll see.
So that just leaves us with the girls and their final little hunt. Something I noticed... something I wanted to bring up was, are you refusing the draw because you know what happens if you do? It's just setting up more like wild activity that we're going to watch the girls experience in the 96 timeline.
Yeah, I think so.
I think on the couch to you, I said like, it's got to be something worse than death or like different than death, because if it's either submit or run or refuse, you know what I mean? If all of that all just cultivates in death anyway, it's like, yeah, that's kind of stupid. So I feel like maybe jail or like tying people up or separating from the group or something dark might come into play in future seasons. Or do you think that was just another throwaway?
No, you're
comment?
right. I mean, it there's something I think there. I understand like what you're saying. It's definitely like I can see why you would jump to that conclusion, and I agree. It's probably if that is what they're seeding, then it is something worse than death. It's probably something that they're gonna have to pay off or show later. We're gonna see more about like how this evolves and how this develops over time. It's not just about them drawing cards and hunting. There's more rules to it that they're making up along the way. The evolution is interesting. If we can see it, again, super frustrated when we don't see that evolution of them going from regular girls trying to survive, and then we don't see how they got to drawing cards and being cannibals.
Right.
Like, you left out that scene. You left out that transition, so I have no idea how that happened. But as we move forward, I assume it's going to evolve more. So for sure, I can see that happening. But that said, it's quite possible that they just threw that line in, not knowing how it's going to work.
Yeah.
You know, like as Mystery Box shows, you just pay these things off later. Like, what if this person said that? Like, what is that? And someone else in the room is like, well, what does that mean? Like, if you don't draw, you know, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out later. You know what I'm saying? Like, it can be that they don't know at all. So.
Yeah, very true, very true. Also, why do you think they burn the cards after drawing them? Because that wouldn't be something they could do in the wilderness because they only have one deck of cards.
Because it'll look cool.
Yeah,
this time. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. They were doing it once, so there was no indication this was going to happen again. So yeah, in the past, maybe I don't know what they did, but obviously they had to keep holding on to those cards, unless they found a new way that we don't know about. So
true. Or there are 52 cards, and maybe like for as long as it takes to draw the queen, you would burn them. So the pact, that would be stupid. Nah, I don't know. Maybe it was just because it looked cool. Who's to say? All right. Well, great. So we have Callie come in and try to protect her mom. Anything you want to say about that?
Well, Lottie has an interesting reaction to seeing Callie. Almost the kind of reaction I expected from her in what I thought she was doing from the very beginning. But now that we know that she was not doing any of these kind of things, it feels really off and really weird. But there's this like, oh, is this your daughter? She's so powerful. Like, what is this? What is she seeing in Callie, and what is it's doing? It's like she seems to be not interested in the fact that she was just shot by this person.
Right.
She's more interested in this person for some reason. Like, she's fascinated. She's intrigued, and I don't know, like, why. What do you think that is?
I wonder if there's anything there because she was obsessed with Shauna's first kid too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder if there's something.
So you think maybe this was maybe quote unquote what the wilderness was trying to tell her, what her vision was like. If the vision was always like, it's your baby, you know, Shauna, your kid is going to change everything.
Yeah.
It never applied to the first one.
And like, now
is that what you think
kid.
It is?
Maybe it's a very weak working theory right now. But like I said, we just know Lottie was super obsessed and said that Shauna's baby was going to change things and that he was powerful. He was this, he was that. Maybe they just got the timing wrong now that she's met Shauna's daughter. Yeah, it just because honestly, when I first watched it, I just thought it was like a stereotypical choice that instead of saying, oh, she's so beautiful, she says, like, of course, in 2023, the woman leading a wellness center says, oh, your daughter's so powerful. So at first I thought it was just like a throwaway adjective. And then I was like, no, because you're right. She's just been shot in the arm. And when she realizes who it is, it's inconsequential to her. And I think that was, I hope it was a choice and not just like a throwaway thing.
it's definitely a choice. I just don't know what it means.
Yeah, I don't either.
You know, so I don't know if anyone else is gonna have.
We got someone typing
any thoughts, but it's just definitely something to take notice of. Had we had a Lottie that was planning things, trying to figure things out, like trying to bring the people there, you know, trying to do more for the wilderness, all that kind of stuff, I could see a person being like the same way we thought Lisa was Natalie's daughter, you know, like, would she be interested in like the offspring of these people because they are part of it too, in a way, and like changing them, bringing them to her side or whatever for some reason. That would have been my theory had we had that Lottie from the beginning, but we didn't have that Lottie. That's not the Lottie that we have, you know? So in that sense, I don't know if that's still what they're trying to do or if it's just, she's never met this person. She's just super fascinated by Shauna's daughter. And again, what you maybe alluded to and what could be true is like, this was actually the vision that she had and she's just believing her visions more and more as they're coming back to her.
Our chat also just mentioned it's an interesting idea that Shauna is the only survivor to give birth to a child.
That we know of.
That we know of, but for right now, because I know Ty, you wouldn't believe
Ty's
it.
adopted, right?
But yeah. I was gonna say, Ty has a family, but the son is her adopted son. So
from Simone's blood, because it is Simone. Simone's the real mom.
The birth mom, I think.
Yeah. I don't know if I remember what the exact thing is, but that's what we assume.
Yeah.
Right. So none of them have children. It's just that we know of. I mean, I guess.
If Mari's still alive, maybe Mari has a kid.
Speaking of which, we did have a poll. I was interested last week. I put a poll on Spotify asking like who they thought might still be alive in the timeline, and I believe Mari is the front runner. That might be untrue. I'm sorry. It was Ben and Mari. Let me look at it really, really quickly. Yeah. But that to say, we're not the only ones. Mari is the front runner with Ben and then Akila right now. So there's a possibility that all three or one of them like could still be alive.
Yeah.
And I think we're not the only ones that would believe that Mari is still alive. Though there's a lack, again, we talked about a lack of people out in that wilderness, and we don't know how often they do this hunt, you know?
Yeah.
And we don't know when that last hunt takes place, or what we assume is the last hunt. We don't know that we see in the first episode. So there's a lot we still don't know in terms of that, you know? And I'm curious, did anyone ever confirm like how many bodies, like how many characters are there in masks from that first scene? We never looked at it.
We didn't look.
I'm assuming that would tell us like how many more could still be alive, right? But maybe someone knows in chat. I don't know. But that could help us. We'll see. Anyway, point is, we don't know, as you said, if there's any other children. And yeah, that could be just why she's interested. There's like a reason for that. Again, frustrating because I don't know what the reasons would be for any of it, you know?
Right.
I still don't know what the reasons for the... Is this a show about supernatural? Is this a show about mental health and, you know, overcoming this darkness and acceptance, as you said, all those kind of things? Like, what do you feel like at this point, like that it's trying to be more about, if anything, or what are you most interested in?
I have a point that's not going to answer your question, but perfectly aligns with it. I was just thinking about how we end the present day timeline, where we get to kind of send Natalie off in an airplane, and the fact that she meets her younger self, young Javi, and young Lottie.
Well, there's only one Javi. Just saying.
Oh yeah, you're right. I want to take a second and think about maybe why Nat saw those characters specifically, but the next thing I want to say is that Nat says, I'm not supposed to be here. And then her younger self answers, we both know that's not true. This is exactly where we belong. We've been here for years. We don't belong here. I don't belong
Jumanji
here.
theory
Has been thrown around Ben a lot.
Yeah.
Where in his dream sequences where
You
it's
mean
like
when
you
he's
don't
not ready?
Yeah,
He's
like you're
not
not
ready. Yeah.
I think they say like you don't belong here. You were never supposed to be here.
Yeah, I do recall that.
So this goes to what you were saying. It could go both ways because Coach Ben during that time we know was despondent, depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that mindset being the flickering in and out of like kind of the will to live, or if you wanted to even be alive anymore. And maybe seeing Nat's internal world in this way too, of like, maybe she was saying, I'm not ready to die. And young Nat was like, maybe you have been ready to die for like years because we've been damaged. Might be an interesting way to look at it. But I also read an article with the actress who plays young Nat, and she said that the way this scene actually ends is with Juliette Lewis screaming and her and young Javi laughing at her. And that's how this scene actually was shot.
Mm.
And
that's
that
scary.
Sounds terrible,
no.
and I would love to see that. But what do you think that, if that's how it was shot, why do you think?
The ambiguity of where they are, afterlife, and or like going to wherever the wilderness wants them, like, and or is she imagining this? Like, I don't know. Like, it feels, I don't know. That feels tragic for a character who is struggling with suicide, who's trying to learn how to get over it and that kind of stuff. It doesn't feel like a decent end to the character. That would feel like such a tragic and almost not barbaric, but you know, like,
but
just
it seems dark
harsh.
because it's almost like her brain is like telling her she deserved it, or like or that her past self is like laughing at the growth that her current self was trying to experience. And she even tells Lisa, like, thanks for trying to teach me that forgiveness is real. And maybe that means that she still hasn't forgiven herself.
Right.
You know, like, so there's a lot of just like dark, sad implications with the way that scene is shot, with Javi, the person that she killed essentially in her place, and her younger self just like laughing mercilessly at her. I think there's shame and a lack of forgiveness and a lack of acceptance there.
It's one of those things where, like, Natalie's story has been, I think, the best thing about season 2. Because, again, we talked about her and Lisa's conversation and what she was actually dealing with, like, actually dealing with the mental health aspect of it, I think was stronger in this entire season. And I was super happy to see that. It feels maybe unjustified or just more harsh than it needs to be to kind of kill her off in this way and to make it kind of so it did feel better, not in the way that you said it was shot, but in the way that they kind of edited it to maybe not be as harsh. But in that sense, like, if you're doing it that way, it feels again, just like not, it feels hard to take. Like, why would we go through this journey? Like, I really loved this character and this journey and this story and what she was like struggling with. And I love that we were able to tackle those things. And I feel like that's what the show should be about. And then to just almost to do it in that way and be like, not just kidding, but like everything you were learning or whatever is like, you're nowhere. This meant nothing, you know, kind of stuff like that. She wasn't, you know, which is, I guess, a philosophy that you could have about life and death or whatever, but to show us that feels like harsh, you know?
I agree. Just an interesting...
But it did feel better that said, then the way you said it was shot, you know, and you know, of all of them, she was the one that was really dealing with the stuff and trying to confront it, you know, and so I think without her, that's going to be like devastating, to us as an audience and from a story perspective, because I don't see I guess not the point, but you know, we're going to have so many characters now that like don't have that heart or that, you know, that empathy for, and it's going to be hard for us to like kind of root for them now, you know, in my view.
Yeah.
How do you feel about losing that?
I feel bad that I didn't feel as bad as I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
You know? And it's not because I don't like Nat's character or appreciate what she brings to the group. I just, it wasn't a particularly emotional death for me. But apparently, and yet another article I was reading online, it's the same person who directed the pilot, or that like worked on the pilot that worked on this last episode. And someone pointed out in that article that there was a foreshadowing that Misty would always be the one that brought Nat's demise. And it's like, it's actually a flash forward in the pilot episode to the adults, and it's Misty and Nat. And I was like, oh, I haven't seen season 1 since the first time we watched it years ago. I feel like there's so much that I just don't even remember, but apparently breadcrumbs are set, maybe even as far back to the pilot, that we were going to lose this character this season. And I had no idea or intentions to do that.
Yeah, it feels like a lot for us to remember. For them not to give us some sort of reminder of that or hints at that leading up to anything, you know?
Right.
But, I mean, regardless if it was foreshadowed or not, do you feel like it was needed to happen, or that was supposed to, or?
Like I said, no, like Natalie's death didn't impact me because it didn't feel necessary. I don't know why they killed Nat's character off personally. But then also, unfortunately, like I don't really care why they killed Nat's character off.
Well, you were asking me, and do you think it was because of story or because of the actress maybe didn't want to? This is pure speculation, but because we don't know,
right?
And we don't want to like cause rumors. I know I was watching a clip on Twitter. I know there's people out there with podcasts that just like to say things as if they're true, so we don't know. And I don't want to be that kind of person, so I wanted to say that up front. But do you think that it had something to do with the actress, maybe, or just deciding like creative differences, or even if there's no problem, she just wanted to move on or had some things that she needed?
Yeah, that was my initial just guess, that maybe she wanted to, like, has been really enjoying her time and maybe now wants to just go do something else.
Yeah, maybe.
And then, yeah, I read that interview that was like, oh, this was actually foreshadowed in the pilot. And I'm like, was it? Or is that the conclusion that we're drawing because it's what happened?
Yeah.
You know? But I know the actress that plays young Nat, maybe it was all just one article I was reading. The actress that plays young Nat is... she feels a little bit untethered. She was like, all of my 96ers have their adult counterparts still to like grow and build with and bounce ideas off of. And she was like, I feel like I lost my mentor on set. But how she's super stoked for her to just go on and do other things. And she was like, I'm still going to text her. I was like, that's really cute. So yeah, it seems like everyone is hurt, but pleased for her departure from the show.
So all the characters have adult counterparts?
Well, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, yeah, she said like...
So Mari might have an adult counterpart?
And my last 96 timeline point is Lottie saying, we gave it what it wanted. It is pleased with us.
It's not the 96 timeline. The future timeline.
The present day timeline is what I meant to say. I'm on the 96 timeline side because I ran out of room on the present day page, but it's okay. But yeah, she says, we gave it what it wanted. It's pleased with us. You'll see. What do you think that means? That just means we're gonna be back
I don't
for
know.
more
The
frivolity.
same thing that it's always meant, that nothing. We don't know. We still don't know what the wilderness wants, what pleases it. It is all just a figment of their imagination, and it's just Lottie being crazy. So yeah, 2 seasons in, we're still unsure. And it does me no good to speculate or to say anything or to because it might not come true, and well, I'm sorry, that's not a reason to not speculate, because things are wrong all the time.
What if so the wilderness wanted to sacrifice, and now someone's gonna be okay, so we sacrificed, and now Shauna's okay, or we were going to sacrifice, and now Misty has a boyfriend, or Van doesn't have. She's not. Her
the
mom
wilderness
doesn't.
did it so Misty could have a boyfriend. Is what you just said.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be that.
But if we had any evidence, any real evidence, not just vagaries and speculation that something good happened because something bad happened, right? Which was the whole thing with the birth and the stillbirth, and Shauna's alive because of this baby died, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that could either be coincidence, as a lot of people said in the show, or it could be true. The wilderness gives and takes.
Mm-hmm.
So which is the thing that we talk about with God, God giveth and God taketh away kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So is this a God of the wilderness? Is this a God? Or is it just, we don't have any actual confirmation, so I can't say that something good will happen because of this, because we don't actually know. We only have one real instance, and maybe and besides the fact that when someone dies, they get to eat it.
God.
So I guess they don't get to starve, if that's the good thing for you. Oh, that's the silver lining, Shannon. Just always look on the bright side. They don't get to starve. So that's the... we don't know.
Okay, so chat just said...
Come on, Shannon.
It means Van's cancer will go into remission.
Oh, no. If that's it.
Chat's on the same page. You heard it here first.
No, I didn't think about the cancer, but if that's the thing...
I didn't either. I was like, Misty got a boyfriend.
Well, the cancer is definitely a better argument than Misty getting a boyfriend.
No, you're right.
But we don't know.
I thought maybe it was that Shauna, like I said, that Shauna's family's off the hook because Officer Syracuse took the fall. So that was there's a good and a bad thing that happens. But
I'm disappointed that we don't get any I guess evidence of why Ty is connected to all this, or Ty's other is connected to all this, I should say.
Yeah,
because
Ty's been pretty useless.
We spent a lot of time with that whole thing of her. We started with her the reveal of what happened,
right,
and then her turning and hurting Simone, all to just get her to this camp, and then the other never takes control of it, and then it's why for this ceremony, but for what? It. When she was younger and she was turning into the other self, it wasn't to do the ceremony. It wasn't to give, it wasn't drawing them to anything. It kept going to the trees, but for what reason, we don't know why. And it wasn't, we think, for them to build a map, and it wasn't for them to understand the underground tunnels, which Javi and Ben found. I don't think it has anything to do with that. So what is the reason for the other tie? Because it didn't lead them to the ceremony.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. It didn't lead them to sacrificing other people.
Right.
And so it's not like it wants that as well, but it is what drew them to each other, in at least her and Van, to the thing, so that they can ultimately do the ceremony. But I don't see that connection.
Well, chat also just said, with this in mind, Van calling off the Lottie help call might lead us to believe that she believes it could have saved her too. Maybe Van was in on the idea that sacrifices lead to goodness.
But that doesn't answer, and that doesn't tell me anything about Ty's other, which is what I was asking you about. What do you think that is? Like what?
Well,
the fact
if
that we haven't
Ty's
gotten anything.
other, is it all connected to Van? Maybe that's why Ty's other was like, Van, come with me to the wellness resort that I'm going to. That's why I trucked across the state to find her.
So the other is trying to save Van. That's fine if that's what you're trying to say. If that's what you're trying to do, but what did it want before then? It didn't want. We don't have any indication that it wanted Van to survive for any reason. We don't. It allowed it. Van allowed it to go and search out the trees while Thaisa was sleepwalking, and so it's like, hey, you're a friend, and so yes, I'll allow you if you let me go, then you can join along, and I will talk to you. But like, it doesn't. What does it want? What did it want out there, and what did it want in the wilderness, and what was the other Thaisa doing? Does not connect to. Now I just want Van's cancer to go away. Like, what would be the reason? Is still not connecting for me. Like, why?
I don't have any good ideas either, because even though we've spent time with Thaisa and her other self, she never really like does anything.
No.
So no, I don't have any hypotheses, because we have no idea what it wants, and we can't, because it never tells us what it wants. It just makes Thaisa walk around and do weird shit. So if we ever find out what it wants, it's probably not going to be for a while.
Well, I guess my whole point was that I'm disappointed that we didn't get anything for this.
Just say that.
I did say that. That was a point, and then I tried to generate more conversation from it, but just to say, it's like, I guess it is disappointing that we don't have anything.
No.
That we spent so much time building on this, and we don't have no answers about the truth of the wilderness. The only answer we have is they became cannibals, which is not really the thing that we were like. This is the thing that we saw in the pilot. We know that this eventually happens, and they showed us it happening, but they didn't really give us like anything else about why or what else happened, or what I'm saying? There's no other answers that were happening.
Right.
So speaking of which, I guess we're on 96. We go to the hunts, right? That was our last thing for the present day.
The last thing for the present day.
Great. We can come back to it if there's any like wrap ups or whatever. But
sure.
So they finish the hunt. Or the hunt finishes one of them, and the wilderness chose, and they come back with Javi. Travis looks less devastated than he was when Javi wasn't found, but still devastated, I guess. You're laughing. Do I say something untrue?
No, it's so true. That's why it's funny. It's like he cries for a couple hours, and then he's biting into that heart like it ain't nothing. And I just, if it were me, Mattias, would you grieve an appropriate amount of time before biting into my heart, or would you just give me a couple cries and then say, "Do it"?
I guess the answer is always, how hungry am I? I guess I don't know. I know they've represented the hunger very well, but like, it doesn't. We don't know.
Why does
like,
he
how
bite
hungry
the heart
would
raw?
he need to be? It's all symbolic and ceremony. They're instituting all these like transition. You've skipped ahead, Shannon, again. This is what they're doing. Is they're just kind of making it up as they go, and they're doing everything in such a weird, symbolic and ceremonial like way as they go along. It's almost like they're influenced by pop culture. The stories. We know that Van. This is called storytelling. We know that Van has been telling them stories from movies that she knows, right? And so if that's all that they have, and she's been doing that, I wish we had seen more of that. If we knew that was happening, they could have had her doing that more. But if that's all that they have to hold on to, and they're telling themselves the story of this thing, and what's happening, then they're doing it in this weird. It's about how they do the narrative, right? They make it okay and they justify it, and they kind of are all on the same page. They can just give each other a look, and they know exactly what the other's thinking. If you eat this, it's okay. It's part of you or whatever. all feels very much like something someone would write in a screenplay for a movie, you know?
Yeah.
In a story like this, you know, and some tribal thing. They're just playing out what they feel like should happen. It's poetic to them, you know?
Right.
That's the only reason. It's definitely not safe or right, you know? You probably shouldn't do that. And hopefully he goes and spits most of it out later after he tosses it onto the fire. I don't know, Shannon. I don't know what they want there, but that's my only speculation in terms of that.
Yeah. Because it looked cool.
So again, beginning of the 96 timeline, unless you want to jump ahead, is them coming back and having Javi and Natalie and Travis having their conversation, and then we, I guess, eventually get to, well, first off, we have a scene with Misty and Lottie, and Lottie's like, why is Travis crying? Or why did he yell or whatever? And Misty tells her, and she's like, she's confused, and Misty's like, no, don't, you wanted this. You started this, right? Did Lottie start this? Misty seems like she's controlling more of this now. What is going on here?
Yeah, Misty stepped right up to the bat. We saw it last week. She was taking care of Lottie left and right, and it gave her the power to facilitate, like, through the lens of what Lottie would want. We know Misty likes power, but also Misty's hungry, and that's what she heard. She heard Lottie say, if I die, it's okay that you eat my body, because that's what Misty was thinking and feeling. You don't want your friend to die, but if you watch your friend die right now, you know you get to eat. That's, you know, you would be looking for any sort of, like, reprieve from any guilt or shame you might be feeling. So I think it makes sense that that's what Misty heard. And of course, now Misty then thinks that Lottie started it. Because you said it was okay first, and now you're going to make me feel bad because it didn't go the way you thought it was going to go? Like, don't. Right,
but she says these things, and then she comes down, and she's like, Lottie's pleased. The wilderness is pleased. You know, she's the one that started all that, but we don't see Lottie say that. We see Lottie being against this. Like, this isn't what she wanted.
Right.
You know, now Misty's manipulating the situation. Now Misty's kind of taking more and more control. She knows what she needs to do to get people not only on her side, off her case or whatever, but also just building kind of almost the vision of what she wants. We've talked about, like, who's the antler queen over and over and over again, but we forget the only person that we see, the person that's face that we see in the pilot, is young Misty. And she's the one that seems to be orchestrating a lot of what's been happening everywhere throughout the first two seasons. We've talked about how she might be like the antagonist of the whole entire thing. Like, what is the wilderness? Who is the antler queen? What if the wilderness technically is just Misty and the kind of whispers, you know? Lord of the Rings has the Wormwood character, I believe, right? Who's like whispering into the king's ear and stuff like that, and making the suggestions and corrupting the kingdom, you know, just with his words, right? His silver tongue or whatever. I don't know. I might be mixing
Phantoms.
But I feel like that's the kind of thing that Misty's doing. You know, she's the wormwood of this character. And we see that kind of like taking place. Like, a change has happened. She's already the reason that they're kind of stuck out there, is because of the black box thing, right? That we don't know that it would have saved them. We don't know, right? But she's kind of the reason, and like everything can be traced back to Misty. You know,
Right.
We were almost joking about that like halfway through the season. Like, everything could be Misty's fault,
Right. That's
so
true.
I just find that interesting that she is taking control here in the younger timeline and manipulating the situation, and how much of the present day timeline is also her manipulating things that we didn't know about.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of it feels like it's mistakes. Like, it's like accident, like some things she does on her own volition, but it ends up being like not really I guess, you know, it wasn't intentional in the way exactly that she wanted to intend it, but how much of it actually is kind of intentional. And I don't know, you know, because we see Christina Ricci and her like visions and stuff, and she's going through some things as well. And it doesn't feel like she's manipulating things, but I just find it more interesting the more and more we find out about what's going on in the 96 timeline. So. Right.
And that ties in really well with something that happens later in the episode for the 96ers, where Lottie's able to say, hey, the wilderness chose who is going to lead us. And we get a shot of Ty, we get a shot of Misty, and we get a shot of Shauna. And Misty absolutely sees herself stepping into like a leadership role and a position of power role. I think that's something that she's been trying to set up for herself throughout the course of the season, actually. And that's why she was getting closer and closer to Lottie, because Lottie was the person that held the most power in the camp. So she tried to become like that right-hand man and the facilitator. And then she was her right-hand man while she was sick. And now she thought she was implementing, you know. So yeah, I definitely see like Misty's been kind of following that arc this entire season.
Mm-hmm. But she is the one that at the end apparently did call the hospital to come get Lottie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like she wanted this to happen either with with Nat. So I don't know. It's really interesting. I don't know what changes in her. So it's something to keep an eye on, but I don't know what they're trying to do there.
Yeah.
You know, or how it's going to play out, or how interested I am in it. So who knows? So yeah, but they decide that they have to go through with it. I mean, that was kind of clear.
Mm-hmm.
So like 4 of them go out there to prepare the body. Shauna effectively blindfolds herself so she doesn't have to see it. Or what she's doing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is the first time that the last time was a fluke. This time is very, very intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and the others leave while she is left to prepare the body by herself.
Mm-hmm.
And what are your thoughts on that scene?
It's just Shauna doing what she does.
Yeah.
She's just playing her role. And I guess I like the symbolism of covering your eyes, but also like you didn't clean that whole body with your eyes covered. So it was more performance art than anything, because then she tells the girls to leave and I'm sure she uncovers her eyes and like sets to work. So I just don't know why.
Well, and then later we see her writing in her journal. I guess what I read is that she thinks that she should have been chosen.
For what?
To be the queen.
Yeah.
She thinks it should be her,
yes.
Right? So it's not just her doing what she's doing, but this belief that she's the only one that can, and she's the one that is like really important here. And she's willing to do the thing that they're unwilling to do, you know? Mm-hmm. So there's a weird like power in her being able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And her like allowing this thing to kind of like take control when she blindfolds herself, you know, as opposed to just not wanting to look Javi in the eye, I guess, or
mm-hmm.
see like, and just like imagine that it's an animal. And or another animal that she's taken apart before,
mm-hmm.
and not a human being, you know? So there's this, her own suspension of disbelief,
mm-hmm.
I suppose, but also a weird kind of like strength in that, you know? So I'm just curious, like how much that's going to come into play, like how important she actually is, the fact that she's the one that stays, no one else can, or does she want to stay? Right. the fact that she's making it where it's, if this is who we are, like, you can't lose me.
Right.
It's her own self-preservation, because at the end of the day, if they do the ceremony again, who's going to prepare the body?
Right.
Right.
Well,
no?
I thought that from the beginning. Like, the first time we see them draw cards, Shauna's drawing a card. But she also knew, because she's the one that takes the knife to kill Natalie, that she was going to be the one. They all knew she was going to be the one to do it. So if they all think that she's the only one that could do it, why would they have had her drawing cards in the first place? So I don't think that I don't think the other people view her as important as she actually is. And I think that's why she's mad. She's like, it should have been me. Look at all the hard work that I'm doing. And it's like, no, this is just your role. You're playing your role. You are like the executioner, essentially.
Right. Or they don't believe that the wilderness would choose her if that were the case. Like, if she's so important that it's not going to choose her. But I think it could be a setup for, like, again, we talked about divisions. I guess we assumed that these divisions were going to happen earlier. That was going to be like Lottie's side versus Shauna's side. Mm-hmm. We even saw kind of like us in the same message from Block A, and like talking about the divisions last week between the adults. When they throw the keys, we see them on completely different sides. Mm-hmm. It's Lottie, Van, and Thaisa, which is in our 96 timeline, people that are really into the stuff, versus Nat, Misty, and Shauna, which are not so into Lottie's woo-woo stuff. Misty,
even though Misty is, though. But I think Misty.
I think Misty is a self-preservation survivalist, and it doesn't actually believe this stuff, but she's going to believe whatever she needs. Like, I really don't think that she is completely, fully, like, the wilderness.
Right.
So much in that she's believing what she needs to maintain anything, her own life, you know, and sense of importance or whatever, you know, and just to fucking eat, I guess. Right. So, there are clear divisions there. And I thought we were going to get it more here in this season, but it sounds like maybe this is seeds for another, you know, season to continually divide those lines.
Yeah.
Right. We even see Shauna, when she buries the child, you know, saying like, it's me and you against the world. Like, she's not on their side,
right? But
she's doing what she needs to do, and she believes that I don't know. There's just some weird things. I'll stop pointing them out. You don't have any. If you don't have any thoughts on it, it's not.
No, I like. So after Shauna is able to clean the kill, we finally see Ben hobble back into town, and he sees what's been happening. And Nat is the one that's able to tell him, like, the wilderness chose. And also tells him that you really don't belong in this place. Just a phrase I'm going to keep following around, hoping that it means something. But that encourages Coach Ben to decide that, you know, his interests no longer align with the girls anymore. And in a later scene, we find him unable to start a fire in his new underground tree home. And next time we see him, he's picking up some matches. And I have some opinions about that. But Coach Ben really isn't a super active player in this episode. But I do like the fact that he's gone back to the like underground tree sanctuary, because I hope that's something that we'll be seeing more of in the next season, because I would like to know if there's anything interesting down there. So I'm glad that they gave us a little sprinkle of it, because I'm hoping that means visit it again.
Right. You're hoping that others of the some variety might possibly reveal the others themselves and lost.
I mean, basically, I don't
4,
think
8,
I could
15, 16, 22, 30.
I don't think I could have said it better than that. But yeah, so anything, there has to be a division soon.
You do
and
realize
it's either,
that most of the internet does not want this to be another Lost.
And I don't blame them for not wanting it to be another Lost.
You're the only one that wants.
Hey, you know,
I'll
triple down. I don't give a shit.
Okay.
But yeah, so just interesting that Ben has decided his morals are stronger. He is not going to engage in cannibalism. He's going to go live on his own under the trees and figure it out, because obviously if Javi could do it, why can't he? Mm-hmm. And I like that that's a choice that he makes in this episode, and I am interested to see how it plays out in the next season.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that.
Chad does bring up how, like, the preparation of the body. Another, kind of, I don't know, are we supposed to suspend our disbelief? Like, what's real, what's not? How are they writing it? What did they research or whatever? And how, I guess, the body. Do we really know that a human body should have been hung to be drained? Well, we did see those other cannibals in another show recently. And they were hanging, so it is, she might be right. They should be hanging to be drained. Otherwise it's coagulated blood or whatever, just something to think about, I don't think it has any bearing on the story though. It's just because maybe the writers do or do not know, and maybe there was a reason they did
maybe
it that
they were
way.
like, maybe a 16-year-old wouldn't know that also, right?
When she knows how to do a whole lot of other things that I don't know that a 16-year-old would know. So that's just, true. Again, confused on whether or not we are, what's our sense of realism here, right? Mm-hmm. Are we supposed to believe that they do know what they're doing, or when they don't bury the body correctly, they don't actually know what they're doing? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, there's...
How smart and capable are these people, really?
It's hard to say, Is Shauna actually like the surgical kind of like taking apart a body kind of person that the cops believe her to be? Mm-hmm. Someone who knows their stuff would be able to do this? Or is this someone that like is learning as they go and doesn't ever actually, and this is just the way that she did it, And how many bodies does she have to do before she has the experience that she has in the future? So I don't know.
that might be it. That might be it. She gets better and better. I don't know. Those cuts look pretty clean on that board when she brings them in. She has great presentational skills.
Right. Or the props department is really good at their job. So where are we? So are we talking about the fire now? Mm-hmm. Or is there anything more to be said about the ceremony, the bowing to Natalie?
Well, we didn't get there yet.
Well, we're there.
Oh, okay. Great.
Where are we not? What more did you have to say?
Yeah, no, that's it. I'm here.
Then we're there.
I'm here. I'm with you.
What do you have to say about the Natalie bowing to pledging fealty to the queen?
I like seeing everyone's reactions. There are people that are so quick to accept her, and then like her and Shauna get a whole like 20-second thing where you can see Shauna experience every stage of grief. And then like that little nod at the end is Shauna like accepting her place.
Who was, I wish I'd looked this up because I didn't think about this. Who was the homecoming queen? The doom coming? Do we know, chat? Who is the doom coming queen? Someone let us know. Was it Natalie? Was it Lottie?
I don't know. I have no memory.
Did they even have one?
You're talking to a goldfish right now. I have no idea.
I'm assuming that the king and queen of the real homecoming of that year was what? Jeff and...
Had to be Jackie, right?
Right, but did they even have homecoming? Because they missed their homecoming the year that Jackie would have been homecoming queen. Shannon's looking it up. We're just Googling this stuff. Yeah, I just remember that there's a possible connection there in terms of the queen and stuff and how important Natalie was from the very beginning, or if that maybe doesn't matter. I do like you said, how they kind of all interpret it. Some of them almost treat it like a joke, or like it's just so surreal to Natalie that this is happening. But again, this is a character that has been so against the wilderness theory herself, that there's something out there. She's been trying to be the most practical one in trying to like find Javi the first time, and then in how to hunt and how to survive, and needing Lottie to be gone so that they can come back to their regular selves. Mm-hmm. I can see how this would be like surreal that now she's the one that was chosen. Is she believing it, Shannon? Do you think she's believing it? Do you think she's...
Yeah, this whole episode is called storytelling, and it's the stories that we tell ourselves to deal with the shit that we have to go through. she is now directly carrying the weight of a death on her shoulders for the first time in her life. And if it can be bandaged with, I'm the antler queen and the wilderness chose me, the wilderness chose, it absolves her of some of that responsibility and that guilt. Obviously, it doesn't actually It doesn't actually do that. I apologize, because we see her when she dies in the present day timeline. She's still haunted by this thing that happened to her in the wilderness. She's haunted by Javi's death. And yeah, so yes, I think she buys into it because of necessity. And it's just like a protection, a wall of protection in her brain and her heart for what she's going to have to continue to go through.
Yeah, I don't...
It's like perpetuating Santa Claus. It's like, yeah, we believe in Santa Claus because we create the magic of Santa Claus.
I think there's something to be said about them coming to the side of believing it, you know? And for Natalie, this would make sense if it chose her and everyone's now putting the emphasis on her. That would cause someone to finally be pushed over the edge of like, okay, maybe they're all right. Maybe I was wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think we've seen that being the true case for Natalie up until this point, you know? I think it's only ever since the ceremony has she been like turned to starting to believing this thing. And so I'm like kind of confused on where she is in that sense, because we haven't seen that kind of really happen or change in her, you know? So very interesting. And I guess our answer is that we assume that Lottie believes the wilderness wholeheartedly, that she chose her, or is she just trying to get it off of her? You know, what is going, like, I don't know. Do you think there's a reason? Because again, it could be just she chose her. It doesn't have to be that the wilderness did anything.
There's almost a sadness in Lottie when she says, like, it doesn't need me anymore because you all learned how to listen to it, and that's great. So it's almost like the wilderness uses you until you've done your task, and then it moves on. So if nothing else, I think it set us up to see the Antler Queen title be passed. Like we were all kind of wondering, is the Antler Queen all of us, like maybe be passed around? Because if it was Lottie and now it's Nat, there's no reason why it can't then be someone else who becomes useful.
Well, in the way that she phrases it, like she was never the leader, you know, and she was never meant to, you know, so this is the first time to have a leader, you know. I didn't know that they needed one at the same, well,
Jackie died. So.
Jackie died, and Coach Ben has not been present. So they could have had a leader just fine, I guess, if Ben did anything until the final scene. But Shannon, you believe that Ben did not start the fire?
I do not think Ben started the fire. No. Period.
And yeah, I can't argue against it because there's nothing to really say. We won't know. We don't know until we know.
There's no way. Chat, do not activate. There is no way that Coach Ben set that thing on fire because...
He had a whole box of matches.
No, listen. Okay, listen. When we see him, he's under the trees, unable to light a fire with flint. He comes back to the cabin to get the matches to light his own fire. That's what I believe. I think we're being led to believe that maybe Coach Ben did this. Maybe the girls are being led to believe that maybe Coach Ben did this, but I don't think he actually did it because do we think that this man was in the mental state to murder like 13 teenagers? But he won't eat one to keep himself alive, but he'll murder people.
No, I do.
Yeah?
No, I think like he's getting the matches and he stumbles upon them like crowning the queen. And to see if you're against all this and you're seeing the craziness that's happening with these teenagers and stuff, and you're like, this is not, how do you explain this? Like, what are we going to do? Like, what are they going to become? Like, he has to do something to stop it. I could see that happening. I could see that being a reasoning in his head to be like, I can't allow these people to be who they're becoming for their sakes, for the rest of the world's sakes, for their future sakes.
I'm going to become a murderer of children.
No one would know.
Because that's better than keeping these girls alive by feeding them.
What is his mental state? What is his mental state? He might not...
He shaved. His mental state should be fine now. Okay. We did that whole thing where he like came back and was ready to rock and roll and like do something.
No, Chad agrees with me. He burned that shit down.
Chad,
he's
you're
doing
wrong.
It. He doesn't. He's disgusted by these people. And
so that means he burnt it down and how did he lock the doors? You're telling me he had a key?
With the door lock on the doors.
The lock is on the outside of the cabin.
Well, maybe he blocked it.
He didn't because we see Taissa break through the door and there's nothing in front of it.
Maybe it's the writer said so. Shannon, I don't know.
Isn't it so much more interesting if there's like room to play with the idea that he didn't do it?
Mercy kill. I agree with this. This is for their sake. I know it doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't. Because again, where does Ben finally decide that he's the one that should be in charge and can make that moral call?
Okay,
that he gets to kill 13 children because he thinks is morally sound over eating someone to stay alive? That's everyone's moral high ground right now.
Our high ground is that we can see it being that way. We can see it being both ways. We can see where
no one is saying they can see it both ways. Everyone's saying that my way is wrong.
No, I can see it both ways. I definitely think that there's a possibility that what you're saying is like if it's meant to be vague, we don't actually see him start the fire. So yeah, the writers can always renege on that. They can always be like, no, it wasn't him, and that can be a plot point for season 3. That's fine. Right. And so like you're just leaning more into like, did the fire start or did the wilderness do it? You know, so more and more vagaries. Right. So your question is, what reason would Ben have to do it? And so we're giving some reasons that I think that Ben could do it. What reason would the wilderness have to do it? I guess to get them out of their comfort zone and to become who they are. It wants them to be.
I think the wilderness is encouraging. Because if this might tie back to why Thais has been sleepwalking to different trees in the area. I think the wilderness is encouraging them to like find this area that Javi found, that Coach Ben found. Like it's driving them. It's like you're never going to explore if you have this cabin. So the cabin's gone and now you have to go out and like be in me.
I guess the thing is I could see both being true and it depends on where they want to take the story. And to me, that vagity is just still more of like frustration because like, okay, if what you're saying true, like what does the wilderness want then? And it's leading them to find these things to what we don't know because even in the present timeline, they don't ever reveal like what happened and they don't even say that, like they don't even agree that anything did happen.
Right.
So it's just frustrating.
No, you're right. It is vague. And I just think this again further plays into the hands of this show can be explained realistically or it can be explained like supernaturally.
Yeah.
So this is a supernatural side of like maybe Coach Ben did not start the fire.
But I do think that Ben did. I do think that Ben did do it, and I think like his mental state and him having to like, he was just about to kill himself. What does he have to kind of like lose is a kind of thing you could convince yourself of, and the embracing the darkness of the story that they're trying to tell. They want this to be dark. They want this to be like, what does a human do? What can push a human being to these limits to do something, right? And the questions you're asking are true. Like, why would he do this? Like, what would push him to do that? Like, he wouldn't do these things before. They didn't connect the dots. You're right. But if that's what the story they're trying to tell, which I think it is, then that's why we can justify that that's what he's doing. I'm not saying it's I'm not saying the transition of getting him to there worked. You know?
Yeah, because you're right.
I'm also wanting to do it because that's the first thing that he's fucking done and the first decision that he's made, and that's why I'm happy about it. That's why I want him to be doing
I can support you. I can feel your happiness in that.
Like if not, he's allowed them to get away with so much for him to finally be like, no more.
Yeah.
To cut it off. Great. I would, after how much we complained about Ben this season, that to me almost justifies it. You know?
That makes me think of again, what Nat says earlier in the episode of like, you don't belong here. There's a sense that the coach is holding himself to a different standard than the girls do, that he doesn't like de-evolve into these nefarious activities. That he floated in and out of like a depression and a dissociative state like a quote unquote normal person would do after having to eat your friends. Like he's having very what he thinks are normal reactions, but to draw attention to the fact that Coach Ben is kind of the oddball out here in the episode. It's like, you don't belong here. Like this is not the place for you anymore. I think either does motivate that choice for him to burn it down, or does motivate the idea that Coach Ben operates to a higher standard and would not be in a position to kill kids.
Well, Chat rightly points out that he doesn't view himself as like them. You know,
right.
He mentions to Natalie that she's not like them.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's seeing Natalie being almost inducted to be like them.
Right.
They've turned her. That was his last person that he could talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And also Javi's dead, so maybe he could have talked to Javi. And so what choice do you have? You know, he's created his own adversary in that sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, do you think now there's a battle between Ben and the girls next season? What are our thoughts, speculations about what this means for season 3? You know, what's going to come? What do we think? I mean, we've had no answers, so we still don't know, like, if Thaisa... I still believe that the other Thaisa was the one. We got soft confirmation, I think. We never got, like, a hard... Thaisa was the one that was helping Javi.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's still true, that Thaisa was helping Javi. And that was another thing that was, like, hinted... With that, when Javi was talking to Ben... Like, she told me not to. So Ben was catching on to certain things, you know? So I feel like there's that still adversarial thing that's happening, even though we don't have any actual answers of what he was seeking out. We only have what we can piece together.
Right.
So any other speculation, thoughts on where this season is going?
I think we're going underground.
All of them, they're just going to become mole people, or
we're all going in the hatch, if you will. I think this is going to be a little hatch centric of them finding more of the island to explore, because it's either the wilderness be in the island, in the woods, or they're going after Coach Ben because they're like, who else would have set our fucking thing on fire? The only other human on this island, Coach Ben. Hunt. Tell me
what would be so satisfactory to you for this to be like Lost? Why do you want this?
Why do I want the show to be like Lost?
Yeah, why do you want there to be others? Why do you want there to be a hatch? Why do you keep using, like you compare it to Lost so much, and it feels like you're wanting it to be so much like Lost, because that would satisfy you so much, because that would be like a whole, like, that would make the story worth it to you or something, because you keep wanting...
Yeah, I keep referencing Lost because I would really like to live in the supernatural of the show. I think it's great that we are tackling concepts like mental health and how all of this can just be happening. But I think it would be so much more interesting if this is just some like weird, like it is a philosophical journey, not a realistic one. And I think that if more people come into play, whether it's others or whether it's a division of a camp, there's a big us-them energy that motivates a lot of internal character development that I would like to see the girls just go through. I think adding more landscape to the wilderness via like maybe those connected underground tunnels just gives you more places to play in, and also would be interesting because like, why are these here? Are you telling me animals just happen to carve these things? We found a dead body in this cabin. Like maybe there is something to this area that we don't know about. So I just think adding depth to the playground is always the more interesting choice. If you want to play in, again, like the weird, like metaphysical, philosophical area like I want to. But yeah, this could all be very straightforward. It could be a show about cannibals and...
I think
you know what I mean? Like it's both.
Those are very valid reasons to like want those things. Like I think that's a very clear indication of like how things would change, what the dynamics could be. That's all very good in terms of like where you want the story to go and everything. I think it's just embracing the fact that it doesn't have to be exactly a hatch or others, but they can still do that, and they can do that geography or whatever you say, build on those dynamics in different and new and hopefully original ways. Because if it is just another rehash, if we're just telling the same stories, if we're just using the same tropes that was built in 2002 or whatever, 2004, I think you're right. Like the fact that these are just, that's all you have to pull from is just, I think would be so unsatisfactory, because it's like, oh, it's just a rehash of Lost. It's just another thing like this. It's not really anything new. Right. You would hope that these mystery box shows are going to be new and original, which is why, again, like I don't usually like to speculate or theorize, because really there's nothing, because we've been doing it all season and just to try and embrace what is the show wanting to be, and we don't know. It feels like it doesn't even want to be those kinds of things. Right. But that said, there's still more stories than just it's a hatch, it's others. Right. We got to put different language on it, because it's not, Lost is not a genre. Like this is not just another Lost. It's Lost started doing certain things just because it starts off and has similarities of a plane crash and
well, it's like the Leftovers too. It gives me like Leftover vibes sometimes as well, which I would
but there
argue
wasn't a
is
hatch,
like,
or you didn't say
right.
But I'm just hoping that there's more ways that they can build it out. Right. But you do seem very hell bent on it being needing to be these things, because you want these things to be true. So yeah. I don't know.
Well, and like I said, like when I say the hatch, what you're saying is like it's more shorthand than anything, because I stand behind the ideas that I just shared with you, that it doesn't need to be specific others, or it's just like the reason I like shows like Lost and The Leftovers is because it deals with like things you can't always grasp tangibly. Yeah. So when I say those words like, oh, maybe the hatch or others, it is more shorthand for like the vibe that I want, and what I'm hoping is coming our way by introducing like more elements that encourage different types of thinking, instead of just, again, we're kind of stuck in this back and forth, like, is the wilderness magic or is it just all in their heads? And I would like to, we've been asking that same question for 2 seasons now, and it's like, how do we grow on that like energy?
Well, that's the thing, and that's why I asked, and I think your answers are valid in terms of like what you want for the show to grow. And I think it's also about revealing some sort of like answers, right? Because even after season 1, if that's all you have to go on, is like it could be this, it could be that, but like we don't really have anything to kind of give us these things but other shows, but other pieces of media to be like, well, this is what other pieces of media did, so this is probably what we're supposed to assume. This is laying a foundation of being a mystery box show from the outset, and I think really does draw those similarities on itself. It purposely compares itself to shows like Lost, and almost is like trying to be in conversation with those other shows. So I think it's valid to pull from those things to compare it to, especially when it's not giving you anything new to really, give you like, what is the answer? What could the answers be? Right. Yeah. It doesn't give you like it doesn't point you into a certain direction, of what it could be. Right now, all we have is that they are without their house, and I don't know now. I'm left with more questions than I did season 1, and I think barely any answers, because even the answers that we did get could be vague and not really true. So it could always be erased. And so we're just kind of like left here, and we're still in the same spot that we were. What happens out there? What goes on? And now they have to find a new way to survive. that can be fine because I think our favorite thing is just how do they do it? You know, looking at how these dynamics play out, who they become, seeing just a survival show out in the wilderness. To me, it feels, if we're kind of frustrated with like the loosey-goosiness of like how certain things happen, like how they chop up a body or prepare one, or, you know, like how things are prepared and the other things that happen were like that, you'd be dead by now or something like that. If we're already frustrated with those things, we're going to be even more frustrated when they don't have like an actual shelter.
Right.
I'm presuming they're going to be running around caves now if they ever find out where Ben is. I mean, because there's no way they're surviving a winter without fire or anything, or shelter. But then again, the show doesn't like to always be accurate, so I don't know.
Right. Well, that's funny. So I'll touch on my last thing that I noticed during the fire. I made Mattias pause it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not seeing all of the people that we should be seeing," and specifically, we are possibly missing Akila and Jen. And then Mattias pointed out that you can kind of see like the shape of someone standing behind. So we get a little like press junket essentially of behind the scenes things we can use to make our podcast better from the PR team.
Yeah.
And I looked because I was like, I don't see all the people and I want to know if it's intentional or if it's because just something happened. And there is a still photo of that exact shot, and there's a person standing with a blanket deliberately over their head so you can't see who it is. And then there is that second pair of feet where I was like, what do you mean they're standing directly behind Thaisa? And you were like, there's someone standing right behind Thaisa. There is, you just can't see them. So there's at least 2 sets of feet that don't have faces. And then when I looked at the wrap photo for that day, Akila and Jen are not there. So I'm assuming it's not intentional. It's just they didn't have those 2 actors for whatever reason. And
scheduling. Yeah.
So nothing probably nefarious there. But I was like, who made it out of that fire? What are they holding? It looks like they have the bathroom bucket and everyone grabbed blankets, which makes sense. But I'm sure, did Van grab the cards?
Yeah, she went back for something. So maybe that was a important thing that she had to go back for.
Maybe.
I don't know. I didn't see what anyone really grabbed.
Blankets and a bucket.
But they don't. I mean, I guess they ate the entire body and didn't store any of it. So
yeah.
So they're gonna go hungry again real quick. I hope someone grabbed the gun. I didn't see anyone grab the gun for hunting. I assume that they're gonna go back to the plane before they go to the caves. Because now that I think about it, that's the only piece of shelter that they're going to have.
Yeah.
That they know of.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully that will help provide something for them.
Maybe other Thaisa will come back and be like, hey, the trees. If you can tell Javi, you can tell your fucking friends.
It's interesting because like, I didn't realize Javi was going so far, you know, because apparently it's past the lake. Then again, I don't really have an idea of what the geography is out here. So, but it seems like it was far for Ben to even travel, you know, to find out where Javi was. I know that she said it was near the lake, the tree was, but it seems like they were going across it, so I don't really know. Like for him to like fall into the lake before, anyway, that's a different thing. I'm just in terms of like where the geography is.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but that's it. I don't think we have much anymore to speculate. Someone in chat says, I hope it ends on magic.
Oh, me too.
The what you said, the supernatural.
Yeah.
I'm still team it's all in their head.
You're team Bethany.
They say it though. They say it. They said it themselves. It was us the whole time. So Lottie, that's what Lottie says.
Yep.
I know we're not supposed to be sure if we believe her or not. It's supposed to be vague. So, but you know, maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
Here we are.
Shannon, do you think we will watch season 3 of Yellowjackets?
I don't think you're going to want to, but I think I could probably bully you into it just a little bit. There's something, you have to admit that whatever it is, there is something about this show that endears itself to you. And I think it's the power of the 96 timeline, the 96 cast, and some of the adult cast. Like, you come for the things that work, and then you have to kind of gloss over the things that don't. Are you telling me you don't want to see what Jeff Sadecki's up to? Or Walter?
I will watch only the scenes with Jeff and Walter.
Okay.
Here's what I'm going to say. If you want us to talk about Yellowjackets season 3, then what you should do is go find Codependent Content wherever you find podcasts and subscribe. Go to YouTube and comment. Let us know how much you loved or hated this season and what you want to see us talk about next.
Blake said, so only the scene with white men, Got him.
Half of me is like, heck yeah. Anyway, go comment on YouTube. Send us an email at codependentcontent@gmail.com if you want us to return to this. Subscribe to us on Spotify. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us wherever you get podcasts, because the more of you that want to listen to us, the more likely I am to want to actually talk about this again.
Oh my God.
If there is more of you out there in our Discord, if you're joining us on Discord, we record this live every week. If you are joining us on Spotify or YouTube, going to the comments, if I'm seeing those follower numbers go up, maybe we'll have a chance to find a new person within 2 years that can talk with you about this in a much better way, and we can have some different hosts if I'm not the best one to talk about Yellowjackets. I will say, like, if you want to talk about Yellowjackets, that's great. I feel like if we can find someone that can like match that, it might just not be the show for me, but we'll still be here for other shows. But we can only get there if you out there share this podcast, engage with us, and get us some more followers so that we can continue doing this maybe 2 years from now.
Yeah.
In the meantime, that's my spiel of commenting and following us and doing whatever. Again, we are going to be watching Across the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man. It's a movie you may have heard of. And we're going to watch that next weekend, and we're going to talk about it on Monday. So we're going to keep the same schedule, and then we're going to have almost a week and a half off. So we're going to miss our next Monday, and we're going to start recording maybe on Thursday or Friday for Star Trek Strange New Worlds. If you have not caught up with the first season of Strange New Worlds, then please go watch that. As a non-Trekkie fan, it's a lot of fun.
And as a Trekkie fan, it's a lot of fun.
I'm really excited to jump into season 2. I'm super excited to not be on a mystery box show.
Yeah, you need a break.
We need to just talk about what we were talking about before, which was this is what it is, just and like this feelings. Is human interaction and being in our feels and just feeling.
That's really where I shine.
Not that I can't do that with Yellowjackets, but even Yellowjackets seems so much more fascinated in the theorizing than in the actual characters. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. Do you have anything else, Shannon, that you'd like to add into all of that or say?
Nothing at all. Just, join us next time. Hopefully you guys like Star Trek. If not, Mattias and I were also flirting with, if there's another big show that we've been wanting to give a chance. I personally would really like to do Warriors with Mattias.
Yeah, we do want to do more shows. We might do some audio only again because I don't want to have to edit video every time or worry about clips. But there's a way that we can easily record and throw something up. Like for anything. And I'm thinking The Bear, which was also good. And as you said, Warrior, which hopefully should be coming out fairly soon. And then, Strange New Worlds. So this is a podcast where we talk about what we love. Sometimes even when they're not good. I do hope that you enjoyed talking with me about Yellowjackets.
I did.
A little bit. And that said, I hope you'll join me to talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse next week.
Is a date.
Okay, great. Well, we'll see y'all then.